Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Arthur Invests. I'm so glad you joined me today. In today's conversation, I'm going to give you some tips, some feedback, and some strategies that you can take and you can apply in your business today. So, whether you're a skilled investor and have a decade of experience, you can take this and maybe add it to your repertoire. Or if you're a brand new investor looking to get started and kind of cut your teeth in real estate investing, but haven't had a lot of success because look, it's crazy out there. I know we just bought like 4 homes this year. It's been nuts. And to get those 4 homes, we had to be a bit creative. It wasn't the easiest time to buy. In fact, I look back and think, I was not as active over the past 4 years as I would have liked to have been looking back now. But it took kind of what happened at COVID to kind of jumpstart this interest in us. And of course, we're competing when like 2 years ago, we could have got every house for about half the cost. But hindsight's 2020. They say the best time to buy real estate was 10 years ago, and the second time is to buy today. So let's look about how can you take advantage of this crazy market and start to really make some strides. And so I'm going to focus on those things. Before I jump into the content, I would like to ask if you like this content, you find it valuable, share it with some friends, hit like, hit subscribe, and let's jump into today. So here's the first thing. How do you get in the market today? It's competitive. It's like a chum inside a feeding tank for fish. It's just crazy. Everyone's circling around the same properties. So here's the first thing that I will suggest. So tip number one is this. You got to go to where people maybe aren't wanting to go. Well, that sounds a little weird. I'm going to give you that. Everybody wants to buy single family homes, Arthur. Well, that's not true. That's not true. People don't want to buy single family homes. They want to buy, ready? They want to buy turnkey single family homes, right? Think about it. What's the stuff that's flying off the shelf? The stuff that's easy to finance, the stuff that they're going to be able to jump into relatively quickly and start to live their life. What don't people want to get into? Okay, let me give you some examples of what you should be looking for, right? If you're combing your market, trying to figure out where to go, here's what you should be looking for. First, square footage. Can you find a property that's a little bit small? Wait a minute, Arthur, it's small. Why am I going to be buying a rental property that's small? Well, first off, if you're buying a single family home, which is kind of where I play, you don't really want to be buying houses bigger than like 13 or 1400 square feet. Look, if your model and your numbers work out in that way, but between 800 and 1200 is kind of where I buy most of my properties. And lately we've been closer to the 900 square feet. And I know that's small, but let me just tell you, it doesn't really matter. You don't get that much more rent for another 200 square feet. You might get $100 more, but you might have to pay $50,000 more just to get that same property. So I will say, when you're looking at places to go, can you deal with something a little smaller, right? Because your average homeowner is not necessarily going to want a smaller property. Okay, so that's one area. Second thing to think about is older. Think about older. Everybody loves the newer properties. That's the nice stuff. People want newer things, right? Things that were built in the last 20, 30 years. Well, I'm going to tell you, if you're a single family home investor, you're going to be buying a lot of stuff in the 50s, maybe even stuff built in the 20s. So that is another place to play, right? Because that's typically going to be a little older. The layouts are going to be a little bit funkier, right? Because they were built in the time when, the kitchen and the living room were meant to be separate units, right? And now with the older homes, this is something that's kind of interesting. Older homes, like if you find stuff in the 50s, ranch style homes, a lot of them were built purposely built for 2-bedroom, 1-bath. Now that creates opportunity for you. Now, why does that create opportunity for you? Let me explain why. If you have a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, and they have an attached garage, you can force equity, you can force appreciation simply by enclosing the garage and making that a 3rd bedroom. It's not that expensive to do. All the construction's pretty much there. You add some insulation, electrical, boom. And look, you get that certified with the city, or you get that inspected by the city. Now you've just added square footage to your home. That's another opportunity for you. Okay, so we just talked about those two. Here's another one that you may want to consider. Something that needs a little work, maybe doesn't quite finance. So you get into this weird place where we're kind of talking a little bit about where maybe flippers are playing. And that becomes a little dangerous, right? Because flippers, those guys, that's their business. That's what they do. But I would say this, there's even a little bit of margin there. There's stuff where they have to make a good amount of profit on their purchases to be able to make up for all the rehab and the real estate fees that they're going to have to spend to put that market back out on the MLS. As a single family home investor, I mean, depending on your cash situation, you can find that property that needs a little bit of work, maybe doesn't qualify for financing, and you can purchase the home, put a little bit of energy and elbow grease into that, and then just refinance that out later. Or maybe if you have enough margin, you can just fix it and hold on to it as a rental. So again, it depends on how much money you're playing with and how much equity you could potentially get. Saying, oh, that's not possible in today's market. No, it is possible. All right. We've been buying homes. We're seeing what's on the market. There is stuff out there that qualifies for this. So that's another property that you should be considering, right? Got to go where the herd's not. Okay. The next one. And this one's, maybe you don't want to do this on your first property. Let's just say that, because this strategy is a little bit more advanced. It's a little more bold. It takes a little bit more cojones, as they say in my culture. So anyway, this is what I would recommend. Look at the stuff that's not selling. Right. And there are probably going to be some areas in your market where it's more rental based, and you're going to see stuff that's not selling. There's two reasons why that's going to be the case. One, it needs a lot of work, which we just talked about that. Or two, there's a tenant in there. Yep. There's a tenant in there. So you could see that and get afraid, right? COVID restrictions, eviction memorandum, policies, right? Protections. There's a lot of red tape there. Now, if you have the stomach for it and if you have the cash for it, that's maybe a place you could play exclusively. Because I'm going to tell you this, the landlord who's on the other end of this transaction has been trying to sell this house for quite some time. Okay. They're nervous because nobody wants to touch this property. They're probably not getting paid. Maybe they're underneath it on their mortgage and they're trying to get out from under it. Well, if you could make a deal with the landlord to take the pain away, there's going to be some opportunity for some equity there. So, look, one person's pain could be another person's gain. And I'm not saying it's an unfair transaction. I'm just saying if somebody's looking to get rid of a property and to liquidate because there's some pain there, you have a chance to kind of bolster that a little bit and take advantage of that negotiation in your favor, so to speak. And so how would you get the tenant out? Well, that's maybe another video we can do, but some short ones would be cash for keys, right? You take over the property and look, you might have to give them $5,000. You might have to give them $10,000. I don't know. What do they need to get out of there? Make that negotiation with the tenant. And there's a price at some point when they want to move. Maybe they just need a little bit more time, but look, you just motivate them, whatever you can to help them stay on the good side of this and move on to get to their next unit. So that's one option. That could take a little while, right? But if you can get a good enough discount, maybe you just swallow the pill and go for it. Okay. So that's another one. Now there's a lot more, but those are a lot. I mean, that if you can find any of those, that's going to start to really build up your prospect list. So the last one would be, look, I don't recommend this if you have a market and you're building relationships, but I like to use my realtor and my property manager as the same thing when I'm going for acquisitions. I didn't do that one time this year, and I kind of burned a little bit of a bridge there, but I think at the end of the day, he understood that really we need to grow our portfolio. There were some really good deals that happened even in the middle of COVID, stuff that we bought for like 160, but because it just needed a little bit of elbow grease, it was like worth 185, right? Just a good, that made sense. And the only way I got that, and here's the next tip, was to work with the listing agent. And so there's a couple of things I'm going to suggest here, and then I'm going to wrap this video. Okay. A couple of things you got to do if you're going to work directly with the listing agent, especially as a rental. First off, I'm going to give these real quick because my wife's calling me. First off, you want to show proof of funds real fast. And two, you want to point to your plan for how you're going to execute on the contract. So that's what I'll say. Looks like I got to get going. I will talk to you on the next one. Hit like, hit subscribe. Thank you so much, and catch you later.